The year was 1872, and the Atlantic stretched vast and impenetrable, a blue canvas where man and nature waged their quiet, eternal struggle. Far from any shore, on December 5th, the brigantine Dei Gratia sliced through the cold waters, her crew vigilant and watchful. The winds were favorable, but an uneasy calm hung in the air, a prelude, perhaps, to something unnatural. Late in the afternoon, a cry went up from the lookout perched high in the mast. "Ship ahead!" The call brought Captain David Morehouse to the deck. Through his spyglass, he studied the vessel on the horizon. Her sails were slack and unevenly set, flapping in the light breeze like abandoned flags. She appeared adrift, her motion dictated not by human hands, but by the whims of the ocean. The ship was the Mary Celeste, a name Morehouse recognized immediately. He had dined with her captain, Benjamin Briggs, weeks before in New York. They had exchanged plans, wished each other good fortune. The Mary Celeste was bound for Genoa, carrying a small crew of 10, including Briggs's wife Sarah and their young daughter Sophia. But now, the Mary Celeste drifted aimlessly, her lifeboat missing, her crew nowhere to be seen. Curiosity, tinged with dread, drove Morehouse and a small boarding party to row across the swell to the silent vessel. As they drew closer, they called out, "Ahoy! Mary Celeste! Anyone aboard?" The only answer was the moaning wind and the slap of waves against her hull. The party climbed aboard, their boots echoing ominously against the wooden deck. The ship was in an eerily pristine state, as if abandoned only moments before. The sails were weathered but functional. The rigging hung loose, swaying slightly in the breeze. The hold was dry. The cargo, 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol, securely stowed. Below deck, the air was stale, but carried no scent of decay or disaster. They found no signs of life. In the galley, food had been laid out, but the plates and cups sat undisturbed, now gathering a thin layer of dust. In the crew's quarters, clothing and personal belongings were neatly arranged, as if the sailors expected to return at any moment. The captain's quarters offered no further clarity. The logbook rested on the desk, its last entry dated November 25th, some 10 days earlier. 6:30 a.m., storm abating, all well. Yet all was clearly not well. A closer inspection revealed peculiarities. The compass was smashed. A deep gouge marred the railing, as though struck by some tremendous force. Ropes dangled over the side, as if hastily deployed. But there was no blood, no signs of a struggle, no bodies. The Mary Celeste was a ghost ship. Her passengers and crew vanished without a trace. The Dei Gratia towed the abandoned vessel to Gibraltar, where authorities conducted a thorough investigation. Theories proliferated as officials and sailors alike tried to explain the inexplicable. Some suggested a mutiny. Perhaps the crew had turned on Captain Briggs and escaped in the lifeboat. But why was there no evidence of violence? Why would mutineers abandon a perfectly seaworthy vessel? Pirates, too, were proposed as culprits. Yet nothing of value had been taken. The cargo of alcohol, the ship's stores, even the crew's belongings, all were untouched. Nature herself was a suspect. Could a sudden seaquake or rogue wave have caused the crew to panic and abandon ship? But the Mary Celeste showed no structural damage, no waterlogging or signs of a capsizing attempt. A more sinister theory emerged from the sailors' whispers. Some spoke of sea monsters, colossal and ancient beings that lurked in the depths. Others invoked the supernatural, a curse perhaps, or vengeful spirits who had claimed the Mary Celeste and her crew. One hypothesis gained traction: the volatile nature of the cargo itself. The barrels of industrial alcohol could have leaked, filling the hold with highly flammable fumes. Perhaps the crew feared an imminent explosion. They might have launched the lifeboat to escape the danger, tethering it to the ship with a line. But if this were true, why had they not returned once the danger passed? Later inspections revealed that 9 barrels of alcohol were mysteriously empty. Whether the liquid had evaporated or been deliberately removed, no one could say. The Mary Celeste changed hands several times after her ghostly discovery, each owner meeting a streak of misfortune. One captain went bankrupt, Another wrecked her off the coast of Haiti in a failed insurance scam, but her legend endured. Sailors crossing the Atlantic spoke in hushed tones of her haunted past. Some claimed to see her specter on moonless nights, a silent silhouette drifting across the waves. Others swore they heard whispers in the wind, faint cries that seemed to call out from another world. The Mary Celeste was more than a mystery, she was a warning. The sea, vast and unforgiving, does not always surrender its secrets. To this day, the disappearance of the Mary Celeste's crew remains unsolved. Theories have come and gone, each failing to explain the full extent of the mystery. In the absence of answers, we are left with questions and a lingering sense of unease. The fate of the Mary Celeste remains one of the most enduring mysteries in maritime history. Despite numerous investigations, no definitive answer has ever been proven. However, several theories, ranging from plausible to wildly speculative, attempt to explain what happened to the ship and her missing crew. For what happened aboard the Mary Celeste in November of 1872 is not just a story of a vanished crew. It is a reminder that the sea holds many mysteries, and some, perhaps, are best left undiscovered. The alcohol theory, leaking fumes causing panic, is widely considered the most plausible explanation. It accounts for the crew's sudden but orderly departure and the lack of physical damage. However, no theory explains everything. Why didn't they take more supplies? Why were they unable to return? The Mary Celeste remains an enigma, a cautionary tale of the sea's boundless power and the fragility of human understanding. Whatever happened aboard, the truth now lies with the ocean, locked away forever. The Sauter family house, perched atop a gentle rise in Fayetteville, West Virginia, exuded warmth and cheer on Christmas Eve 1945. George and Jenny Sauter, Italian immigrants who had built a stable life in America, gathered with their 10 children. The modest two-story home glowed with the soft light of a Christmas tree and the chatter of excited children. As the evening wore on, Jenny urged the youngest children to bed while George sat by the fire, recounting stories from his youth in Sardinia. By 10 p.m., most of the household was asleep. The older children lingered, exchanging whispered secrets and jokes as snow began to fall lightly outside. Jenny awoke later to an unfamiliar noise, a sharp thud on the roof followed by a rolling sound, like a stone tumbling. Startled, she lay still for a moment before dismissing it and falling back to sleep. Moments later, the acrid smell of smoke seeped into her room and she bolted upright. Flames were licking up from George's office near the stairwell. Panic spread as Jenny shouted to wake the family. George, disoriented, ran to help the children escape. 4 of them, Marion, Sylvia, John, and George Jr., managed to flee into the freezing night, some in their night clothes. As the inferno grew, the Sauters realized 5 children, Maurice, 14, Martha, 12, Louis, 9, Jenny, 8, and Betty, 5, were still inside. George attempted to re-enter the home, but the fire raged uncontrollably. He smashed a window, cutting his arm, but the thick smoke forced him back. He yelled for the children, but no cries came from within. In desperation, he ran to fetch a ladder to climb to the 2nd floor. To his shock, the ladder was missing. He then tried to use his trucks, planning to stand on them to reach the windows, but neither vehicle would start, despite functioning perfectly the day before. Marion ran to a neighbor's house to call for help, but the operator did not respond. Hours later, the fire department arrived. Too late to save the home or the children trapped within. As the first light of Christmas morning touched the ruins, George and Jenny combed through the ashes, praying for closure. Yet no bones or remains of the 5 children were found. Authorities theorized that the intense heat had completely incinerated their bodies. However, Jenny, unconvinced, began conducting her own experiments. Burning animal bones in her stove, she observed that even after hours of exposure to flames, fragments of bone always remained. Adding to the mystery, investigators found that the house's phone line had been cut, not burned, as initially believed. The missing ladder was discovered in a ditch far from the house. Neighbors reported seeing a stranger stealing a block and tackle system near the property that night. a device used for heavy lifting. The Sodders' grief soon turned to suspicion. George recalled an incident a few months earlier when a traveling insurance salesman had threatened him. "Your house will go up in smoke," the man warned, angered by George's vocal criticisms of Italian dictator Benito Mussolini. The local police dismissed this as unrelated, but the Sodders were not so sure. In the months following the fire, Jenny began hearing whispers of sightings. A woman at a Charleston hotel claimed to have seen the children accompanied by 2 men and 2 women, all with foreign accents. The children appeared nervous, she said, and the adults were unusually protective of them. George, consumed by hope and desperation, began traveling the country following leads. In 1949, the family hired a private investigator who found a photograph of children resembling the Sodder kids in New York. Later, in 1968, Jenny received a photograph of a man who bore a striking resemblance to Louis. Written on the back were the cryptic words, "Louis Sodder. I love brother Frankie. Lil boys." A 90132 or 35 inches. Unable to let go of their children, George and Jenny erected a large billboard near their home. It displayed photographs of the missing children and a plea for information, offering a $5,000 reward. The sign became a local landmark and symbol of enduring grief. George died in 1969, his heart heavy with unresolved questions. Jenny followed in 1989, still refusing to give up hope. The surviving Sodder siblings, though haunted, carried on the search, but no definitive answers ever emerged. The Sodder children's disappearance remains one of the most haunting mysteries of modern America. Were they consumed by the fire, or did someone take them, orchestrating a night of chaos to mask their crime? The evidence hints at foul play, but the truth remains elusive. Jenny wore black every day as a sign of mourning and left the billboard standing until the end of her life. After Jenny's death, the surviving Sodder siblings dismantled the billboard. Though they carried on the search for their missing brothers and sisters, they sought to move forward in their own lives, balancing the weight of the mystery with the need to find peace. Today, the disappearance of the Sodder children remains an enduring enigma. Theories abound, ranging from kidnapping orchestrated by the mafia, retaliation for George's anti-Mussolini views, or an elaborate plot to sell the children into adoption. Others believe the children perished in the fire and that grief clouded the family's judgment, leading them to imagine clues where none existed. What is undeniable, however, is the Sodder family's unwavering love and refusal to let their children be forgotten. The story endures as a haunting reminder of how even the most ordinary lives can be touched by extraordinary tragedy, and how the human spirit can cling to hope, even in the face of the unknown.